I've worked out that there are four key reasons why coaches, consultants, experts, service providers who are building a personal brand or trying to can't get to that five figures a month mark, there or thereabouts. So I wanted to record a quick video to break down exactly what those problems are and how I think you can fix them, because that's what we're helping a bunch of other people do inside C2C. So let's do a quick share and hop onto the trusty iPad. I don't know how long this is going to be. I'm planning to go live as many days as possible just to flex like the freestyle muscle, if you will. So yeah, strap in. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. So the main problem or symptom of a problem is this feast or famine mode. You know what it's like. You've probably been there. I know I have. Still am in some regards. Just at a bit of a higher level now because we've got the infrastructure and stuff. But 1 month will be really good. Then you'll have a couple of shit ones. Then you'll have another good one. You'll be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Then you'll crash again and you'll be like, I hate this. I don't know why I quit my job. It would be easier to go and work at Tesco. And it would. Like, it definitely would. You've picked the hardest sport in the fucking world if you're trying to grow a business. So just for doing that, give yourself a pat on the back. I think feast and famine is often a case of having no action plan. You might have a loose plan, but you're probably piecing together too many bits of free information. You've got the old comparisonitis going on where you see someone else achieving with one thing and you're like, oh, I'll go and do that. And then some other person says you should do ads or you should spend 30 hours a day commenting on their posts or whatever. And you're like, oh shit, yeah, maybe I should do that. And you abandon the original plan, which means you never really had a plan in the first place. And because you don't have a plan, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself here, my planning is usually really good. At the moment, I'm kind of don't really have one. And I haven't had one for a couple of months. We're just doing a shitload of testing. But when you haven't got a plan, it leads to lack of clarity. And lack of clarity is one of the most dangerous places to be in. And it actually comes from not stacking enough action and overthinking stuff. Big overthinker over here, as I'm sure you are, most entrepreneurs are. And that lack of clarity then transpires into something, and that is random acts, all right? Probably very random content and random marketing ideas that you're undertaking day to day. And what happens is this just goes round and round. I'm not going to ruin my lovely diagram, but round and round and round and round. Just imagine loads of arrows, and each one starts to feed each other. So I want to talk about some of the things I think that you can have in place for each of these things or each of these problems or symptoms in order to try and improve it. And there is no real order to this. There are loads of different pieces of the business jigsaw. I like to start with time and vision and looking at the calendar and stuff like that, which is what we're going to get into first. But you might have already done some of this stuff. It's just a question of like tweaking a few other bits. So I've actually put this all together in a free training where you can go and check out the whole model, which is, I call it the school hours model. It's like a work in progress title, but 4 hours a day, 4 to 6 hours a day, and how you can earn 5 figures a month doing it. And yes, that's revenue. You will have very, very high profit margins though if you do it, the way I'm going to suggest to you. So let's get into it. I want to start actually at box number 3, because I think this is the problem with most people who are anywhere between like 1 or 0 to 5K a month, let's say. You need to get clear on a few things. The first thing, I hate to say it first, but it's almost like the future or your vision. Now, I don't necessarily mean your 10-year plan or your 20-year plan or anything like that. I just mean what you want life to look like over the next like 3 to 12 months. Because if you can get clear on that, it's going to limit your time that you can actually spend on the business. So transparently, when I started my business, I was working full time, some of it from home, and I was getting up early and working late, and I sacrificed pretty much every waking hour I could have spent with friends and family, my wife, just to try and get this off the ground. I had no direction really from any mentors or anything like that. I didn't have a proven plan. I just had some B2B sales and marketing experience that I was trying to shift into almost very small or very small business owners. Anyway, I didn't have a future vision and I was just working all the hours under the sun. But the future vision, so what you want life to look like, will play into your calendar. Now, you will have seen some of these bigger people who do similar stuff to me talk about the perfect week. You got to build your perfect week. Bollocks. When have you ever had a perfect week apart from when you've been on holiday? Maybe, hopefully. Probably never or very infrequently. So I think it makes much more sense to try and build out what you want your average week to look like, because there's always some bullshit you've got to go and deal with, whether it's like going and taking the dog to the vets, or, perhaps something's broken in your house, or we've got to replace the fences in our garden. That, like, stuff like that, you would never put that into your perfect week. So we need to be a little bit more realistic. But when you've got this like average week, you give yourself certain buckets and certain things that you can put time into that give you constraints. So if I know that I have to go and do the school run on a Monday and a Friday, which are the 2 days I do the school run, I know I have to finish work by 3, and I know I can't start work until 9:30. So that gives me, 6 hours, 5.5 hours, call it 4.5 hours with like messing around with like lunch and gym or whatever. That gives me some constraints to operate within, which means I set expectations for myself, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs don't have at the start. I certainly didn't. You have these massive goals that aren't actually quantified, and you have expectations which are completely fucking unrealistic. Like, you want to achieve so much and there are so many things you could and should do, but actually you've not given yourself a lane to play in by putting constraints into your calendar. So once you have these things, you know exactly what you want your life to look like for 6 months, and you know how much time you can actually dedicate to doing it, which is super, super powerful. I remember I went through an exercise, I think it was like 7 months ago now. I had this exact same iPad, exact same program, I think it's called Good Notes, and I just wrote down one sentence, and it was, wouldn't it be cool if ... question mark. Wouldn't it be cool if I didn't take sales calls anymore? Wouldn't it be cool if someone scheduled my LinkedIn content for me? Wouldn't it be cool if Amy could quit a job and just do bookkeeping for C2C? And there was loads more. Most of those things, 6 months later, unknowingly, have come true. Only because I actually wrote them down, and I actually spared half an hour. It might have even been less than that. It might have been 15 minutes to go, all right, this is exactly what I want from life. Randomly, it would be really cool if these set of things happened. And don't get me wrong, not all of them happened, but some of the more important ones did. Amy's now doing our books. I don't take sales calls anymore. One of the other things I wrote down was I'll go to the gym every day. I go to the gym most days, or run. Been for a run today. And that only happened because I got clear on them. And I wasn't setting anything too unrealistic. I'm not trying to 10x that shit or anything like that. It was literally just, what are some things that would be cool if I changed them? And what would that look like? And then I gave myself the constraints, time-wise, inside my calendar and stuck to them. And this lack of clarity informs everything else in a much more... this clarity informs everything else in a much more positive way. Because once I've got, I know exactly where I'm going, it will inform the plan, okay? And when you have an action plan, when you know exactly what you want to do, it forces your hand, okay? Because it means that when I put together an offer or whatever I'm going to sell, I know if I'm doing the school run, I've only got a few hours on Mondays and Fridays, and obviously yours will be different. I can't sell every single one of those hours one-to-one and doing coaching. I might have to look at something a little bit more scalable or a little bit different. So that informs the delivery model, how I deliver to people, but also the offer as well. And the other thing I can then start to get clear on is, like, now I know how I live my life, or how I want to live my life up here, I can get very clear on the brand that I want to build too, because it's not just about the offer and what you sell when you're trying to win clients online. It's also about the personality. So the person that you are underneath all this. And it shouldn't be underneath, it should actually be the surface of it. You should be the front and center. You should position as much personality as possible, because that's what's going to combat against all the bullshit AI that you're seeing at the moment. So the clarity forces an action plan, and the action plan forces you to get very fucking clear on what it is you sell, who you sell it to, and also how you deliver it, and also the elements of your life, your timetable, your routines, your little quirks and things that you do that are a little bit different to everyone else out into the open, which is perfect. Because once you have those things, guess what happens next? You rub out the wrong thing on your iPad. No, it isn't that. It's the marketing. So rather than everything being stitched together and being really random, you can focus on what I like to say is almost three things. Okay, the first one is the strategy that you're going to have, and like in order to execute daily, because you've got your time sorted, you know what your offer is, you just need to bring it to life alongside some personality, but also the journey that you take people on. You know, when I got very clear on the fact that I didn't want to do sales calls anymore, which isn't for everyone, but it was something I wanted to drop and test, and we're still in the testing phase. It meant that the pre-client journey changed quite a bit. I wasn't trying to take people over to Calendly anymore. So just by going and doing these things in box 3 here, inform the plan, which also de-randomize the marketing. All right. Which in turn, when you know the journey, allows you to craft content around it. And this is the problem. Okay. Most people hop into the online space and start trying to build their own business online. They go straight away to here. They start posting content, which is great. It's exactly what I did, but you don't have to do it like that. And you probably shouldn't do it like that if you actually want to have an intentional lifestyle, which is exactly what this big outcome in the middle, the 5 figures a month in 4 to 6 hours a day, is all about. All right. So all of this, before we even think about content, and a lot of people who start working with us, they're already posting content. We don't tell them to stop, but we do have to set certain foundations in place before the content is going to work as well as it could. And obviously content will come in loads of different forms. You'll have long form, you'll have short form, then you've got like the different platforms you could use. Obviously LinkedIn is one, but you could look at emails, YouTube, might be Facebook, depends where your audience are. But because you've got very clear on the offer, you already know, and it works really, really well. Alongside that, because we got clear on the journey, we probably know some of the triggers and things that our clients actually struggle with and the problems that they want solving. So we will build what I call an inbound magnet, or a lead magnet. Let's call it a lead magnet, because that's what most people call it. And this is something that you can give. It's almost like the drug dealer clothes, right? You can try a bit of this. If you like it, you can pay and have more. So we put out, it could be free or it could be very low ticket, just to get people into our ecosystem, into our world. They can understand a bit more about us without too much risk on their side, and they can see what we're like behind the scenes, what our processes are like, whether they like how we deal with things, and obviously showcase proof and other bits along the way as part of this journey that we've already put together. Hopefully you can see why this is not random. This is highly curated. And the good thing is it's curated, not necessarily created, which again, I think is a problem people have when they're trying to build a brand. They're trying to create this whole new thing rather than just doing the best with what they've already got. And if you think about the best personal brands or the biggest personal brands on the planet, they might have built them a little bit, but actually they've just amplified various elements of their existing life or business rather than go and create new shit. Okay. And when you do it in this order, it means that you don't have to go and create stuff. You're just doing stuff that you already do and you already like, right? That's exactly where you want to be, because it's so liberating. Anyway, these three things working together. So you know how you're going to execute, you know the journey that you're trying to take people on, and you're plugging those gaps with content, and also directing people either to a call, to an application, or to a lead magnet, as we kind of mentioned. And this stops the feast and famine massively, because once you have this intention, once you know that you're pushing people in a direction and you know the reason why you're doing it, people start to align with you more, because you'll attract people who have a similar view or a similar stance or a similar take on things that are going on in the world, the problems that they're facing, and they'll align with you on it. Don't get me wrong, You will get some haters if you go too far out. I've had it. It's great because it just means I'm doing the right thing. We've got the word magnet here. That's what your marketing should do. Yes, it should attract people, and that's what most people associate with a magnet, but it should also repel the wrong ones, which is perfect. And then this final block, this first block up here, the feast or famine, is mainly about sales. All right. But it's not necessarily a sales problem. Usually it's rooted in one of the other three boxes that we've talked about. And there are three things that I do or help our clients with, or both, in order to overcome feast and famine, but only after we've got some ideas on these first few bits. The first is our priority pipeline. So what this is, well, the clue's kind of in the name. Once you start putting out content that is aligned with you, the actual offer that you want to sell, that's aligned with your life and your personality is out there inside your content as well, you're going to get some attention. You're going to get people interacting with your content. You're also going to get people downloading your lead magnets. They might start consuming your long form content or sign up to your email list or whatever it may be. And that is going to give you a few people at the start to go and have further conversations with and potentially make offers to. Problem is, most people here will start cold. So they'll reach out to the new followers, or they'll reach out to someone that's just connected with them, or accepted their connection request, or whatever, and try and sell them, rather than having engineered the journey from the start and taken some people, won't be loads to begin with, down that journey. So we want to flip that. We only want to go after the hot people. So I use this as a story for our clients a lot of the time. If I only had 5 messages or 5 interactions or phone calls to make each day, where would you spend those 5 coins or those 5 tokens? You're going to spend them with a new follower, or you're going to spend them with the person who you've got a sales call booked with in 2 hours' time? Who's the most likely person to give you money? Because that is who you should be contacting first. And there's a whole science behind this. I actually went through the whole process, and there are over 40 conversation stages in the average pipeline. Most people treat it as 2 or 3. So being very aware of the journey you take people on and then contacting them in the right order is an absolute game changer. Now, on top of that, in order to stop feast and famine, we want to have some form of campaign going once every 4, 6, 8 weeks, something like that, to actually get people who are sat on the fence off the fucking fence, because fences hurt your bum. You get splinters. So that is something that we can plan out. It has an end date, and it also has urgency in some description. Now, urgency can be anything. It literally is just a reason to act faster. So it could be that you are shutting the doors, or that the price is going up, or we actually have 8 campaign catalysts that we use inside C2C and help our clients with. Another one of those is bonuses, as an example. But running one of these promo campaigns, again, allows you to plan. You have an action plan, you have an end date, and then you can engineer and curate the reasons as to why your ideal clients who might be on the fence should start to work with you as soon as possible. Without going into too much detail, because this is literally our whole model, just doesn't look as neat as the graphics that we we provide. The other thing is frictionless sales. All right. So the last thing that you want to have to do is try and convince people too heavily. What am I doing? Angelic sales. That's the new one. Frictionless sales. So you don't want to put any friction in the way of someone who might be interested actually converting. Now there are not loads, but there are quite a few ways you can sell. Most people will sell through a call, of course. We have applications. You might have a click to buy. You might do it through a workshop. You might do it through DMs only. You might have a combination. There are a few different ways. Okay. So once you know the way that you want to do it, and for most people I would always advise sales calls, because you'll get the highest conversion rate off the back of a one-to-one conversation with people. But whatever, once you know the way that you're going to do it, you can engineer that journey too. So once you know there is interest, and then once you know there is a conversion point, we can look at the different touch points between interest or hand being raised or first action taken all the way through to the call, and we can really start to prescribe different actions and personalized and automated touch points within that journey in order to enhance the chance of someone buying. We can pre-handle some of the questions, or pre-handle some of the misconceptions that people might have as well. that's kind of my rant over. I'll do a quick summary if I could even decipher my own notes. We start here, all right? We want to know where we're going, and we want to know a short to mid-term plan, nothing long-term. You know, it's great to have a fucking vision board with like a penthouse suite in Miami on it or whatever, but we need to be a little bit more grounded in our reality, all right? We're not on a manifestation babes bullshit. We just want to know how can we get to a goal that is actually achievable, all right? And then we can start to associate our calendar and our actions to reflect the identity of the person that is actually worthy of achieving that goal. Okay, so we've got this vision. We look at the calendar. Then we will have to strongly look at the delivery of how we want to deliver it and what marketing and what pressure points or buttons we can press in order to get people to be interested in it. At the same time, we want to get very clear on the areas of our personality and our life that we are happy to put out there online for people to consume. And this is like the magnet part of it all right? It'll attract, but it'll also repel. That then gives us a bit of a marketing stance rather than just going in, as I mentioned, in doing the content stuff. So we set up the journey. We know exactly what we're trying to do to get people to go where, and we choose the medium and the platform. So are we just going to do videos? Are we going to go live? What is it? Articles, written, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever, alongside the platforms, obviously. And then once we had a few conversations, we can look at building a lead magnet of some description, and it shouldn't take long. You know, give yourself a couple of hours because it's just a very, very like small problem-solving resource of some description. That is going to compound quite quickly, especially if you have an existing network or a few followers, and that's then going to allow us or give us some attention. If you can hear my dog barking, could you do me a favor and tell her to stop, please? Thanks. After that, we will have this attention and we will just attack in order the hottest people who are closest to giving us money, who we like the look of, all right? Obviously, you are going to get some shit people who download your free stuff. It always happens. Lots of tire kickers, lots of other competitors, if you're doing good stuff, will also want to check you out and potentially steal stuff from you. Standard stuff. The game is the game. We run promos to enhance the priority pipeline and enhance the chance of success when it comes to booking calls and conversions or whatever it is. And then we have this endpoint, because we've already done the journey stuff, where we know we're actually trying to take people to a call. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to go because the dog's annoying me. Hopefully that was useful. If you want to get the free resource that I mentioned, so my lead magnet, I'll put the link somewhere in the description. It'll walk you through the whole school hours model, and it'll be a little bit more polished with a little bit less dog barking.